Hello everyone, my name is Helga and you're on my anime channel. Today I would like to share with you my thoughts on the Winter 2022 anime series that I'm currently watching. In general, I'm watching 15 shows and I have been really enjoying most of them. For me, this season is one of the best anime seasons that I have ever followed. As usual, we'll start with the leftover and continuing series and then move to the new titles. So without further ado, let's go! There is only one left over from the previous season that I'm currently watching, and if you keep up with my videos, you probably already know that it's Ranking of Kings. On my anime list, I also have Platinum End in the currently watching category, but I think I need to put it in the on hold already because I haven't been keeping up with it for a long time. It's not that I didn't like it, I just didn't feel like continuing watching it. So let's talk about Ranking of Kings. I think it's one of the most deceiving anime titles in terms of its character design and animation, because if I didn't know anything about it, I would mistake it for a kids show. However, it doesn't shy away from gore and showing the negative sides of human nature. I find this show riveting, however I can't say whether I truly like it or not because it doesn't reveal the motivations of most of its characters. We still don't know what the king or Miranjo are truly up to, and I think my final score will depend a lot on these revelations. There is also just one continuing title that I'm watching this season, and it is Attack on Titan. I think the series has been one of the most controversial anime series for me because I have had very conflicting feelings about it. I like the style of this show, including how much work and soul they put in the opening and ending sequences, both visually and in terms of music. I also kind of appreciate the complexity of the main character that they are currently presenting, and I think his visual design also matches the journey that his personality is going through. But the whole time travel mind game aspect doesn't fully work for me. And I also can't empathize with any of the characters of this show now because they're not presented as good people anymore. So my attitude towards this series is very mixed. And now let's talk about the new shows that are coming out this winter. I have put them in categories based on their genres, so I'll just go through my list and share with you my thoughts and feelings about each of them. Let's start by talking about Slice of Life. The first series on my list is called Q. It's a lighthearted anime about young girls willing to become voice actors. They have signed up with a newly formed agency and now are learning the craft. The thing that I like about this show is that there are a lot of characters, like 16 main characters, but they all have their distinct personalities, so you're able to recognize all of them after watching just a couple of episodes. The second Slice of Life series that I'm watching is Akebi's Sailor Uniform. It's about an active but a little awkward country girl who is really excited about enrolling in a private all-girls school, anticipating wearing their sailor uniform. It's a laid-back, meditative kind of story, the genre that I normally enjoy. However, there is one feature of it which gives me creepy vibes. Sometimes in some scenes there is this weird tension, almost like sexual tension between characters, and this feeling of suspense that doesn't lead to anything but still makes me feel a little uneasy. Next, I have a slice of life show with a very unusual theme called Police in a Pod. And it's an unexpectedly interesting series about a girl who works at a local police station. She's not happy with her job and she was even thinking of quitting it before meeting her new female instructor, who is really tough at first glance but really tries to help people by doing her job. So the main character starts changing her attitude towards her profession too. Now, let's move to the romance type slice of life shows. And this season I'm watching two and I'm really enjoying both of them. The first one is called Sasaki and Miyano. It's a slice of life romance show about two high school boys who start a friendship after one defends the friend of the other. Miyano is a cute looking BL manga lover, and Sasaki is a delinquent who starts sharing this interest of Miyano and developing feelings for him. It's a slow burn romance, but I enjoy every second of it. I've even bought the first volume of the manga, so I'm reading the manga together with watching the show. And talking about slow burn, there is another cute romance show this season, and I think a lot of you have already guessed that it's My Dress Up Darling. It's about a loner boy who dreams of continuing his family business making dolls, and a girl who is an avid cosplay and eroge lover. These two unlikely characters find common ground and start being friends. However, it's clear from the beginning that it will eventually lead to them forming a romantic relationship. It also has a lot of silly jokes and awkward moments, so I think even people who have never been that into romance might really enjoy it and get into the genre. Next, we'll talk about isekai and start our list with the one that also has some romantic notes. It's called Life of an Ordinary Guy Who Reincarnated into a Total Fantasy Knockout, and it's the funniest show this season. It's a comedic isekai series about two 32-year-old male friends transferring to another world by the will of a goddess who makes one of them a beautiful girl. So all the humor in it is built on their embarrassment of being people of opposite sex now and being attracted to each other. I think it's a breath of fresh air in the isekai genre, and it also makes fun of a lot of its tropes. So I really recommend you checking it out. Another isekai anime that I'm watching is called She Professed Herself, Pupil of the Wise Man. It's a quite typical RPG isekai with an overpowered main character who used to play this RPG game as an old mage, but got transferred into it with a new avatar of a cute girl. As you could notice, it's the second cross-gender anime this season, but the previous one is much more interesting in my opinion. However, I keep on watching this one too, so maybe it's not that bad. However, if you decide checking it out, be prepared for an overpowered character who can beat anyone, which might be a little boring. There is one more isekai series with an overpowered protagonist this season called World of Leadale. It's about a previously bedridden girl who gets reincarnated in her favorite VR MMORPG game after the life support system keeping her alive fails. This show is a little bit more fun because it has some interesting character dynamics, and the main character resembles a yandere type of girl sometimes. And now we're moving towards the fantasy category. And my favorite show in this category this season is Sabikui Bisco. It's not a high fantasy show because the main events are still happening in Japan, but it's definitely a fantasy world and it's a crazy one. However, this is the case when it all works perfectly despite all of its madness. There you'll find the main character who grows giant mushrooms in the center of the city by shooting arrows with a bow. Police officers on iguanas, armed hippos, and a giant crab carriage. But the characters are so nice and the plot is so riveting that you get used to these things very quickly. And I also enjoy the ending theme song by the main voice actors. I think their voices complement each other really well. And it's actually similar to how the characters of Milo and Bisco complement each other in the series. The next show in this category is The Strongest Sage with the Weakest Crest. And it's actually the weakest out of all fantasy series that I'm watching this season. Pun intended. I don't really like the plot, I don't understand the moral of the story, and the main character is also overpowered for basically no reason. But the only thing that I'm watching this series for is one of the female characters who is really cute and funny and likes to eat and to sleep And she is really awkward as well, and her voice actor is doing a really good job portraying her. This anime series is also different from the other fantasy series because the main character actually reincarnated in the same fantasy world as a child in order to become stronger. But the delivery of this idea, unfortunately, hasn't impressed me so far. The third fantasy series on my list is called The Genius Prince's Guide to Raising a Nation Out of Debt. This anime has a lot of palace intrigues and mind games, which honestly I sometimes struggle to follow. But it's also really fast-paced, so I don't lose my interest. And the last category on my list is sci-fi. I recently started watching Tokyo 24th Ward, and I got so interested in it that I'm now completely caught up with the show. It's about three friends who people call RGB because their hair colors are red, green, and blue. One day they lose their friend under tragic circumstances and later start getting mysterious phone calls from her, worrying about possible disasters. It's almost like time travel, a genre that I really enjoy because they try to change the future. Also, the characters are fascinating to follow and they all have their own morals. So each time you have to decide who you support more, which is very immersive. And I don't know why this title has such a low rating on my anime list, because I really love it and I think it's a good contender to become my number one of the season. And I also have one more sci-fi show on my list, which is talked about a lot this season because of it being extremely ecchi. I think you have already guessed that it's End Harem. I think everybody knows what the plot of this anime is all about by this point, but I'll tell you anyway, just in case. It's about a virus that killed 99.9% of world's male population. So the rest of the men have to copulate with multiple women in order to continue the procreation. I'm watching a highly censored version of this show on Crunchyroll, and of course in some scenes this censoring is necessary, but sometimes I feel like it's nonsensical. Do you feel the same way? And I actually feel weird saying it because this show is so infamous, but I have been kind of enjoying my experience with it so far, if it makes sense. I like the premise of this show, and I really hope that we will get more of the plot than the ecchi scenes in the future. Am I too naive? I don't know. Maybe it will cross the line with its etchiness and edginess for me at one point. But the thing that I will never change my opinion about is the ending theme song. It's just perfect. It's such a banger, isn't it? It will be really interesting for me to find out your opinions about this show, as well as other titles on my list in the comments below. Also, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and click the little bell icon to get all the notifications about when I post new videos. I hope to see you all soon. Bye!